The private jet hummed softly as it waited on the tarmac, lights gleaming against the evening sky. Aaron stepped out of the waiting car, his polished shoes clicking against the ground. He adjusted his jacket, taking a deep breath. Traveling by private jet was not unusual for him, but tonight, there was something different in the air, a sense of possibility he couldn't quite name. As he opened the jet door, the cabin greeted him with its familiar luxury, soft leather seats, polished wooden panels, and the gentle aroma of fresh coffee lingering in the air. The flight attendant smiled politely and directed him to his seat. Aaron glanced down the aisle and froze for a moment. Across from him, near the window, sat Neela. She was reviewing some documents, but her presence was immediately striking. Her hair fell gently over her shoulders, and her eyes carried a spark of confidence mixed with curiosity. Aaron felt a small thrill he had not expected. He cleared his throat politely. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, gesturing to the empty seat next to her. Neela looked up, her eyes meeting his. A small smile played on her lips. "No, it's free. Please, have a seat." Aaron slid into the chair, feeling the soft leather beneath him. There was a quiet elegance about Neela, a mix of grace and determination. He tried not to stare, but he couldn't help noticing the subtle way she tucked her hair behind her ear. The jet began to taxi down the runway, and the engines hummed louder. A small sense of excitement filled the cabin. Aaron and Neela exchanged polite conversation, at first discussing the weather, the comfort of the flight, and minor travel stories. Each sentence seemed to draw them a little closer, though neither realized how much the other's presence was affecting them. As the jet climbed into the night sky, the city lights below twinkled like scattered stars. Aaron looked out of the window, then back at Neela. "I always find flying at night fascinating," he said softly. "The world seems so calm from up here." Neela nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It does. It feels like everything down there is far away. Like you can escape for a little while, just breathe." There was a pause. The kind of pause that carried weight, a quiet acknowledgement of the moment. Aaron smiled gently, sensing the connection building between them. Suddenly, the jet hit a small patch of turbulence. A gentle shiver ran through the cabin, and both Aaron and Neela instinctively shifted in their seats. Their knees brushed lightly. Aaron felt a spark in unexpected warmth and looked quickly at Neela. She met his gaze, her lips curving in a small, knowing smile. "Looks like the night sky is alive," she said, her voice light but playful. Aaron chuckled. "Seems so. But I think I can handle it, as long as I have good company." Neela's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Good company can make anything easier," she replied. The rest of the flight was calm after the brief turbulence, but the atmosphere in their little corner of the jet had shifted. They began talking more freely, about their interests and favorite places to travel. Neela spoke about her work with quiet pride, her eyes lighting up with every detail she shared. Aaron listened intently, impressed by her passion and dedication. He shared some of his own experiences, choosing stories that revealed not just success but also the effort and heart behind it. They laughed together over small anecdotes, their laughter echoing softly in the cabin. Aaron noticed how natural it felt to be near her, how easily the conversation flowed. Neela noticed the calm confidence he carried, the way he seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say. As the first hour of the flight passed, a subtle understanding grew between them, a recognition that this encounter was more than casual. They were strangers, yes, but something about the quiet hum of the private jet, the soft lights, and the night sky outside made the connection feel inevitable. The first part of their journey had begun, not just in distance, but in the quiet unfolding of curiosity and attraction. Both Aaron and Neela were aware, deep down, that the hours ahead promised more than a simple flight. They hinted at a story neither of them could yet predict. The jet cruised smoothly above the clouds, leaving the city lights far below. The hum of the engines was almost soothing, creating a calm bubble that separated Aaron and Neela from the world outside. After the initial turbulence, their conversation had become more personal, and a quiet excitement lingered in the air. Neela leaned back in her seat, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I never imagined I'd end up on a flight like this," she said with a soft laugh. "Private jets always feel so distant from reality." Aaron smiled, his eyes meeting hers. "Maybe that's why they're so nice. They give us space to think, to relax, and to meet interesting people." His words carried a gentle warmth, and Neela felt a small flutter in her chest. They shared a moment of quiet, looking out at the clouds glowing faintly under the moonlight. Then Aaron leaned slightly forward. "I've always liked seeing the world from above. It reminds me how small some of our worries really are." Neela nodded thoughtfully. "It's true. Sometimes we focus too much on things that don't matter, and forget to enjoy the journey." Her words struck a chord with Aaron. He found himself admiring not just her intelligence, but the way she spoke with honesty and calm insight. "You seem to think a lot about what's important," he said. "I like that." Neela smiled, a little shyly. "I guess I've learned to. Life doesn't give many second chances, so I try to make the most of the ones I get." Aaron felt a quiet admiration growing inside him. There was something rare in her way of seeing the world, something that made her glow even in the dim light of the cabin. "I understand that," he replied. "I try to do the same in my own way." For the next few minutes, they fell into a comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need words. Occasionally, they glanced at each other, and a faint smile passed between them each time. The soft hum of the jet became a background melody to their quiet connection. Breaking the silence, Neela tilted her head. "Do you ever feel like travel changes you? Not just the place, but the experience itself?" Aaron thought for a moment, then nodded. "Absolutely. Every journey teaches something. Meeting new people, seeing different places, it shapes how we see ourselves." He paused, then added softly, "Even short encounters can leave a lasting impression." Neela's eyes widened slightly, as if his words were meant for her alone. "I agree," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "Sometimes a single conversation can feel important, like it will stay with you." Aaron's hand brushed lightly against hers as he reached for a small notebook he had been carrying. The contact was brief, but both felt a subtle spark. Neither pulled away, letting the moment linger for a heartbeat longer than usual. They continued talking, but now their conversation was filled with more laughter and playful teasing. Neela recounted a funny story from a recent business trip, where she had gotten lost in a small, charming town and ended up making friends with the local shop owners. Aaron shared a similar story from his travels, involving a mix-up with hotel reservations and a kind stranger who had helped him. Their laughter echoed softly in the cabin. Aaron noticed how Neela's eyes lit up when she laughed freely, and Neela observed how naturally Aaron smiled, how comfortable he seemed even in an unusual situation. It wasn't just attraction, they were genuinely enjoying each other's company. As the conversation wound down, a gentle silence returned, but this time it felt warm and inviting. Neela's hand rested on her notebook, but her fingers twitched slightly, as if remembering the brief touch earlier. Aaron adjusted his seat, subtly moving closer, feeling the magnetic pull between them. For the first time on the flight, they acknowledged what had been quietly building since takeoff, a connection that went beyond small talk. Both felt it, an unspoken understanding, a recognition that this encounter was more than coincidence. The night stretched on, the jet moving steadily through the clouds. Aaron and Neela continued to talk, laugh, and share little details about their lives, discovering more about each other with every passing minute. It was the beginning of something delicate, exciting, and entirely new, a connection neither of them expected but both wanted to explore. The soft hum of the jet filled the cabin as the city lights below twinkled like tiny stars. Aaron and Neela had settled into a rhythm of conversation that felt surprisingly comfortable. The initial tension of meeting had faded, replaced by laughter, curiosity, and a quiet connection that neither of them had expected. Neela leaned back in her seat, a playful glint in her eyes. "I have an idea," she said, a small smile forming on her lips. "Let's play a game. It's simple. I'll describe a famous place, and you try to guess it. Then it's your turn." Aaron raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "A guessing game, huh? That sounds fun. But be warned, I'm surprisingly good at these things." Neela laughed softly, the sound warm and genuine. "We'll see about that." She leaned forward slightly, her enthusiasm contagious. "Okay, first clue, it's a city that has a famous tower. Many people visit just to see it sparkle at night." Aaron thought for a moment, then grinned. "Paris. The Eiffel Tower." Neela clapped her hands lightly. "Correct. Your turn." Aaron leaned back, considering carefully. "All right. This place is known for its colorful buildings along the water. People ride in small boats called gondolas to see the city. It's very romantic." Neela's eyes lit up, and she smiled knowingly. "Venice." That was too easy. The game continued, each description sparking stories of past travels and little adventures. Neela recounted the time she had gotten lost in a small town in Morocco, only to stumble upon a tiny cafe where the owner treated her like family. Aaron shared a memory of a quiet beach in Thailand, where he had watched the sunrise alone and felt completely at peace. With each story, they laughed, teased, and learned more about each other. Aaron noticed the way Neela's eyes sparkled when she talked about experiences she loved, and he found himself drawn to her curiosity and energy. Neela, in turn, was captivated by Aaron's calm presence and thoughtful reflections, which made her feel comfortable in a way she rarely did with strangers. At one point, a gentle bump from minor turbulence made their hands brush again. This time, neither pulled away immediately. Instead, their fingers lingered in the briefest touch, sending an electric thrill through both of them. Aaron cleared his throat and looked at Neela, who met his gaze with a shy smile. "Seems like the sky wants to remind us it's here," Aaron said lightly, trying to ease the sudden flutter in his chest. Neela chuckled, tucking her hair behind her ear once more. "Maybe it's just adding to the adventure," she replied softly. The conversation shifted naturally after that moment, moving from travel stories to more personal thoughts. Neela shared her love for painting, how she sometimes sketched landscapes from memory, and Aaron talked about his passion for writing short reflections, small notes about life he kept in his journal. Their voices blended with the soft hum of the jet, creating a quiet intimacy that neither had expected to feel so soon. At one point, Aaron reached for his drink and accidentally bumped Neela's hand again. This time, he didn't move it away quickly. Instead, he allowed the contact to linger, and Neela's eyes met his, a spark of playful curiosity passing between them. It was subtle, but both recognized the growing closeness. The game and the stories continued, but now they carried a new undertone, one of gentle teasing and quiet tension. Each laugh, each shared secret, and each lingering glance seemed to pull them closer together. As the jet glided above a blanket of clouds, the world below forgotten, Aaron and Neela realized how quickly time had passed. What had started as polite conversation had turned into a connection neither of them wanted to end. There was a sense of ease, of comfort, and an unspoken understanding that this flight was already different from any other they had taken before. By the end of the hour, both felt the subtle shift in their relationship, a mix of excitement and anticipation for what was to come. They were strangers with a spark, two people brought together by circumstance but drawn to each other by something far more personal. And as they gazed out at the clouds glowing in the moonlight, neither could deny that the night held the promise of something special. The night had grown deeper, and the cabin lights of the jet were dimmed to a soft, warm glow. Outside, the clouds rolled silently under the pale moonlight, giving the illusion that they were floating through a quiet, endless sky. Aaron and Neela had been talking for hours, their conversation now moving into deeper, more personal territory. Aaron shifted in his seat and looked at Neela. "You know," he began, his voice calm, "I've had failures in my life. Moments when I thought I'd never get back up." Neela turned her eyes to him, her expression softening. "I think everyone has those moments," she said gently. "What matters is how we move forward, not how many times we fall." Aaron nodded, appreciating her insight. "Exactly. I once invested in a project that seemed perfect, but it failed completely. I lost a lot, and at first, I couldn't understand why. But over time, I realized it taught me more than any success ever could." Neela's eyes sparkled with admiration. "That's a good way to see it. I had a challenge recently with my business, something I thought I couldn't handle. But I pushed through, and it taught me resilience, patience, and humility." Their conversation deepened their bond. Each shared their struggles not for sympathy, but for connection, and in doing so, they discovered admiration and understanding in each other. It was no longer just polite conversation or light teasing, they were revealing pieces of themselves that few people saw. The jet passed through another patch of clouds, and a small shiver ran through the cabin. Their hands brushed gently, this time not by accident. Both felt the subtle electricity of the touch, but neither moved away. The silence between them became warm, almost comforting. Aaron cleared his throat, smiling lightly. "It's strange, isn't it? How quickly strangers can feel familiar." Neela smiled back, a soft blush coloring her cheeks. "Yes, it feels natural. Like meeting someone you've known in a different way, in another life." They fell into a quiet pause, just listening to the soft hum of the jet and the occasional creak of the cabin. The intimacy of the night, combined with their openness, created a moment neither wanted to end. Aaron's gaze lingered on Neela, noticing the thoughtful curve of her smile and the gentle way her eyes reflected the cabin light. Neela, in turn, observed Aaron with careful attention. She admired his calm confidence, the way he spoke honestly without trying to impress, and the warmth that seemed to radiate naturally from him. She felt herself leaning slightly closer, drawn by the sense of security and trust between them. "I sometimes think we underestimate small connections," Neela said quietly, almost to herself. "A few words, a single touch, a shared story, they can matter more than we expect." Aaron nodded, his hand resting lightly near hers. "I agree. It's the small things that make the biggest difference. And tonight, I think those small things have already made an impression on both of us." For a moment, their hands touched fully, fingers brushing as if by unspoken agreement. The moment was gentle, tender, and electric all at once. Neither spoke, but both felt the shift. Their connection had moved from casual interest to something more heartfelt, something promising. The conversation continued, though now it was quieter, more reflective. They spoke about hopes for the future, dreams they hadn't shared with many, and the lessons life had taught them. Each word, each glance, each small touch strengthened the bond forming between them. As the hours passed, Aaron and Neela realized they had found something rare, a genuine connection that was not forced, not fleeting, but natural and meaningful. The private jet, high above the world, became a small universe of its own, carrying two people closer together with every passing moment. By the time the first hints of dawn touched the horizon, both knew this night would stay with them. Not just for the stories or laughter, but for the quiet confessions, the shared understanding, and the unspoken promise of something new, something worth exploring. The cabin was bathed in the soft glow of early morning light as the private jet continued its smooth flight. Outside, the clouds sparkled faintly under the rising sun, giving the sky a golden hue. Aaron and Neela had been talking quietly for hours, sharing stories, dreams, and reflections. The atmosphere between them was warm, calm, and filled with a quiet anticipation that neither had yet expressed in words. Neela shifted in her seat, stretching slightly. "You know," she said, a playful smile appearing on her face, "I think we've been sitting too seriously all this time. It's time for something a little fun." Aaron raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Fun? And what exactly do you have in mind?" Neela leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "A dance," she said lightly. "Right here. Just a simple sway in the cabin. No music needed, just the two of us." Aaron chuckled softly, amused but curious. "A dance in a jet? I've never done that before." "Neither have I," Neela admitted. "But it could be interesting." He stood carefully, mindful of the limited space, and held out his hand. Neela placed hers lightly in his, and they began to sway gently, moving in rhythm with each other. The movement was careful at first, almost tentative, but soon they found a natural flow. Laughter bubbled between them as they realized how playful and light-hearted it felt. "You're a surprisingly good dancer," Neela said, smiling up at him. Aaron grinned. "I had a good teacher," he replied, his voice warm, though he didn't elaborate. The dance was more than just playful movement, it was an exploration of trust, comfort, and closeness. Their bodies moved together with an unspoken understanding, each swaying step creating a quiet intimacy that neither had expected. Aaron noticed the way Neela's hair brushed lightly against his shoulder, the gentle warmth of her hand in his, and he felt a thrill of connection that was both exciting and tender. Neela, too, felt a new sense of closeness. She had always been careful with her heart, but with Aaron, it felt safe to let go, even for a moment. The dance became a silent conversation, expressing emotions they had only begun to feel. They laughed quietly when their steps stumbled, and in those moments, the awkwardness only drew them closer. After a while, they slowed, their movements becoming smaller, more intimate. Aaron held Neela's hand a little longer, and their eyes met. Neither spoke, but the connection was clear, a growing understanding that this encounter was meaningful and special. "You know," Aaron said softly, his thumb brushing lightly over her knuckles, "I didn't expect tonight to be like this. But I'm glad it is." Neela's smile softened. "Me too. It feels natural. Like we were supposed to meet, even if by chance." They stood there for a moment, the world outside forgotten, surrounded only by the quiet hum of the jet. The playfulness of the dance had opened the door to something deeper, something tender and heartfelt. Their laughter had shifted into quiet smiles, and the subtle tension between them was now warm and inviting. The jet passed over a stretch of clouds illuminated by the morning sun, casting soft shadows across the cabin. Aaron and Neela moved back to their seats, still holding hands briefly, reluctant to let go of the closeness the dance had created. As they settled, both realized that this playful moment had changed everything. The spark between them was no longer just curiosity, it had become anticipation, a promise of shared moments yet to come. Their connection had grown from polite conversation to laughter, to understanding, and now to a tender intimacy that neither could ignore. The hours ahead of the flight promised more stories, more laughter, and more opportunities to explore this delicate bond. Both Aaron and Neela were aware that something rare and beautiful was beginning, a connection that could grow far beyond the confines of this private jet. And as the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a golden light across the cabin, they sat together quietly, hearts open, smiles lingering, and the thrill of possibility hanging softly between them. The jet hummed softly as it descended slowly toward the city below. Morning had fully arrived, painting the clouds in soft gold and silver shades. Aaron and Neela sat side by side, the cabin quiet except for the gentle sound of the engines. The playful energy from the earlier dance had settled into something deeper, warmth, trust, and an unspoken connection that neither wanted to ignore. Neela glanced out of the window, watching the city lights slowly grow brighter as the jet approached. "It's almost over," she said quietly, her voice carrying a hint of wistfulness. "I feel like the time passed so quickly." Aaron looked at her, sensing the same feeling. "It does," he admitted. "It's strange how one night or a few hours can feel so important. Like it matters more than days or weeks sometimes." Neela turned to him, her eyes reflecting curiosity and something softer, hope, perhaps. "Do you ever feel that way about people you just meet? That something clicks instantly?" Aaron smiled, a small, thoughtful smile. "I do. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it feels right. Like you're meant to understand each other, even if you've just met." Neela's hand brushed against his lightly, and neither moved away. The simple touch carried more meaning than words could describe. Aaron felt a gentle thrill at the contact, but it was warm, safe, and comforting, a spark that was not hurried but patient. "I wasn't expecting to meet anyone tonight," Neela said softly, her eyes on him. "But I'm glad I did." Aaron's smile deepened. "Me too. I think some things just happen at the right time, in the right place." They lapsed into a quiet moment, each feeling the subtle energy that had been building throughout the flight. Aaron gently reached for Neela's hand, intertwining their fingers. The gesture was small but intimate, an acknowledgement of the bond they had formed. Neela squeezed his hand lightly, a soft smile spreading across her face. "I've never had a flight like this before," Neela admitted, her voice gentle. "Not just because of the comfort or the view, but because of the company. It feels different. Special." Aaron nodded, his gaze steady on hers. "It is special. I've met many people in my life, but this feels genuine. Real. Not something you find every day." A soft hush settled in the cabin as the jet glided through the clouds. The warmth between them was quiet but undeniable. Neither wanted to rush, neither wanted to overstep, but the connection was there, growing, honest, and meaningful. "Promise me something," Neela asked suddenly, her eyes bright. Aaron raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Anything. That we don't let this end just because the flight does, she said softly. That we see where this goes. Even after we leave this jet. Aaron held her gaze, feeling the sincerity in her words. I promise, he said gently. I want to see where this goes, with you. A small, shared smile formed between them, one that carried relief, excitement, and mutual understanding. Their fingers stayed intertwined, a silent pledge to nurture what had begun on this flight. The world outside the window was vast, but within the small cabin, they had created a little space of trust and connection that felt timeless. As the city lights grew nearer, signaling the end of their journey in the air, Aaron and Neela shared quiet laughter over small observations, the way the sun hit the clouds, the way the cabin seemed almost magical under the soft light. Every word, every glance, every touch reinforced the bond they had formed. The first hints of landing approached, and both felt a mixture of excitement and anticipation. The flight was ending, but their story was far from over. Aaron gently held Neela's hand a moment longer, meeting her eyes. This is just the beginning, he said softly. Neela nodded, her smile bright and hopeful. Yes, just the beginning. And as the jet began its final descent, both knew that what had started as a chance meeting had grown into something rare, meaningful, and full of promise. The private jet touched down smoothly, the tires making a soft hiss against the runway. Outside, the morning sun bathed the airfield in golden light, casting long shadows across the tarmac. Aaron and Neela remained seated for a moment, both savoring the last minutes of their shared journey. This is it, Neela said softly, a hint of wistfulness in her voice. The flight is over. Aaron looked at her, noticing the way the sunlight caught her hair, the gentle expression on her face. Yes, he replied, a warm smile on his lips. But the journey, that doesn't have to end here. Neela returned his smile, a mixture of hope and excitement lighting her eyes. She reached for her bag slowly, making sure to keep their hands close together, brushing occasionally as if to reassure herself that this connection was real. As they stood, Aaron offered his hand to help Neela steady herself. She took it, and for a brief moment, the world outside the jet faded. All that existed was the quiet warmth between them and the promise of what lay ahead. Walking down the steps, their hands remained lightly intertwined. Each step brought them closer to the ground, yet neither felt the urge to let go. The airport staff moved efficiently around them, but the two of them moved at their own pace, enjoying the lingering intimacy of the morning. I can't believe how fast the time went, Neela said, her voice soft, almost dreamy. It feels like we've known each other much longer than a single flight. Aaron nodded, squeezing her hand gently. I feel the same. It's rare to meet someone and feel such a strong connection so quickly. I don't want to lose this. They reached the waiting area outside the jet. A car stood ready to take them in different directions, yet neither moved immediately. They lingered, still holding hands, sharing small smiles and quiet glances. I'd like to see you again, Aaron said finally, his voice low but steady. Maybe soon. I don't want this to be just a one-time thing. Neela's eyes brightened, and she nodded. I'd like that too. I don't know why, but I trust you. And I want to see where this goes. Aaron reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Here, he said, handing it to her. Let's exchange numbers. We can make plans, talk, and continue what we've started. Neela smiled, taking the phone and typing in her information. Their fingers brushed again during the process, and both felt a soft thrill at the contact. Once done, she handed the phone back, and Aaron slipped it into his pocket carefully, as if keeping a treasure close. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, words unnecessary. The connection they had built over hours of shared stories, laughter, and quiet moments had grown into something tender, promising, and real. Aaron finally spoke, his voice gentle. "I'm glad I met you, Neela. Tonight, this morning, it's been unforgettable." Neela's smile deepened. "Me too, Aaron. I've never felt this kind of ease with someone. You've made these hours special." The sound of a car engine starting reminded them of the world outside their bubble. They both knew the moment to part ways had arrived. Yet instead of sadness, there was excitement and eagerness for what the future might hold. Aaron gently held Neela's hands one last time. "We'll see each other again soon. I promise." Neela squeezed his hands in return. "I'll hold you to that promise," she said with a laugh, her eyes sparkling. As they stepped toward their separate vehicles, they turned back for one last glance. A shared smile passed between them, a smile that held anticipation, trust, and the quiet magic of new beginnings. The private jet remained behind, silent and grand, a reminder of the unique moments that had brought them together. But Aaron and Neela walked forward into the city, their hearts lighter, their spirits lifted, and their connection stronger. The flight had ended, but their story was just beginning, full of laughter, shared dreams, and the promise of love discovered in the most unexpected place. And as the morning sun warmed the tarmac, both felt certain that this was only the start of something beautiful, a story that neither distance nor time could diminish.